Hey guys, what's going on? It's your good buddy Sam, and this week we're not going to talk about Max, believe it or not. Well, we are going to talk about Max, but not just Max. I want to talk about Max for Live. You know, it's been bothering me for a long time. I don't feel like people talk about Max for Live enough because it's really great. And to be honest, I feel like there are people out there in the world working diligently, never asking, for any charity or any recognition, just building Max for Live devices. When you get right down to it, we celebrate firefighters and teachers and police officers as sort of the heroes of society. But if you ask me, I think the real, true, unsung heroes of this or any civilization, it's the people building Max for Live devices. We owe them a debt that we don't really think about in our day-to-day lives, these people keeping our economy going, keeping our society functioning. And I wanted to take this opportunity to spotlight some of the great work that has come from people who build Max for Live devices. This week's device is a device called Break Machine by Happy Machine or Lucas Nanamutu. And it's a great device for doing kind of breaks, sort of jungle rhythms, just sort of these really fast kind of glitchy rhythms. It's a lot of fun. You should download it and play around with it. So to get the device, you go to machinehappy.tumblr.com/software and you download. The download link is here, Break Machine version 1.0 plus manual. Click download. Once it's downloaded, unzip it, and then all you have to do is find the file on your computer. Where is it? Here, Break Machine, whatever, and just drop it into Places User Library. And as you can see, I've already done that, and it appears here in this track. So what is Break Machine? How does it work? Basically, you get two tracks going, an audio track and a MIDI track. Into the audio track, you drop the Break Machine device, and into the MIDI track, why is this not working for me all of a sudden? Into the audio track, you drop the Break Machine device. Okay, now it works. In the MIDI track, you drop the Break Sender device. I'm going to drop that in here again, Break Sender. And what happens is the MIDI messages go through Break Sender and trigger breaks in the audio track. So say, for example, I brought this audio into my audio track like so. It's silent because, why is it silent? What about now? Right, so this one actually plays sound through just yet. We need to throw in a MIDI clip and throw in a MIDI note. We need to fold, do we? Like so. And what this MIDI note is doing is triggering a break in the audio. So you'll hear it a little more if we say take this MIDI note. Let's make it a full measure long, length 1, and then pad this all the way out. Do this, drag this like so, and then loop this a few times. You'll hear what I'm talking about. So that's what's going on there. Those MIDI notes are triggering the stutter. If I drop one of them out, the audio just starts playing again normally. So back in that in this track, let's take a closer look at the actual Break Machine device. Over on the left here, you've got these controls, start and end. These affect how big the stutter is in ways that are not totally intuitive to me, to be brutally honest. But whatever, you can definitely play around with them and get different sounds. This exponential versus quantization button here lets you jump between two modes. In one, you have an exponential, you have smooth control over how long the stutter effect is. In quantization mode, you can jump between different stutter or break lengths. In exponential mode, this tau parameter controls where in the curve you are and how long the stutter is, and delta controls the exponent of the curve. What was I going to talk about? Oh, here, this supermorphing exponential arc cinch or arc sine controls the envelope, the amplitude envelope on the grains of the buffer, grains of the stutter rather. But unless the stutter is really short, you won't really hear it as anything other than, well, when it is really short, those things will have a large effect on the timbre of the sound. So I'll show you what I mean. Anyway, those are there. And then all the way on the right, you've got filter controls and a degrade control to add some bit crushing, and then panning, and yeah, you can affect the cutoff of the filter. Not totally sure why this stuff is here, to be honest. It could just as easily, maybe because there was empty space above the word machine. That's kind of mean. But anyway, you don't necessarily need to have these controls here. You can add, of course, a filter or a degrade afterwards. So anyway, I want to show you a couple of cool things that you can do once you've got all this stuff in place. So one of the great things about having the stuff in live is it's really easy to automate all these parameters. In particular, this tau parameter, you could use it to create a lot of dynamic in your sound. Sounds like bullshit, Sam. Well, let me just show you what I mean then. So say we want this downbeat here to have some kind of motion to it. What I can do is come to the break machine here and then look at the tau parameter and just make it go from really, really high to really, really low over the course of that those first 2 beats. Add a little curve to it maybe. We're in quantization mode, which is why it's not working the way I expected, but now let's listen to it. Switch over to tau. Not sure why we're missing the first. Okay, maybe start needs to be. Yeah. So sometimes you have to mess with start and end to get it working just the way you want. I'm gonna make end about 2000. That's more or less what I want. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. You can mess with this delta parameter to really affect that curvature. Yeah, okay, as delta gets smaller. That's kind of what I wanted, it to just slide right into that, that second beat there. Anyway, you can see we're just modulating that tau parameter. Another fun thing to do is to switch over to quantization and then automatically change the quantization here. That's pretty fun to do too. So if we make this note longer again and then mess with the quantization. Yeah, you can see you can mess with that envelope as well. That's all fine. I just wanted to show you a couple other kind of advanced things that you can do. Well, not advanced, but just interesting things that you can do using some different Max for Live devices in conjunction with the Break Machines device. So I'm just going to delete all this stuff really quickly. We don't need it anymore. And then back here in what is called Mixer View, excuse me, Mixer View. The first thing that you might want to do is actually send these keys, like controlling the quantization with an envelope is fine. But what I really want to do is push a different, so the MIDI, if you actually look at these MIDI notes, the MIDI notes trigger a break to happen, but which note you play doesn't actually matter. But what you can do is use that MIDI note to automate parameters in the break machine. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Here in MIDI, what I'm going to do is come over here to Max for Live, and here where it says Max MIDI effect, I think, I'm going to throw in this expression control device before the break sender. And what expression control will do is let me use this parameter here, key track, which just gives you the key, and I can map that to, say, quantization here in the break machine. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to click on the map parameter here, and then click on audio, and then click on this quantization thing here. And you'll see that, oh, it says mode now. I don't want it to say mode. It's not what I want at all. I want it to affect, so let's clear that. Oh, it got screwed up somehow, it looks like. Oh, no. Okay, let's try this again. Let's click on this guy. Did that work? It doesn't look like it worked. Okay, I'm going to delete this expression control and put in a new one. Okay, so you click on map, and then you click on one of these. Quantization, beautiful. So it should say quantization here next to key track. And then what this does is we'll take the different keys and map them to different quantization values over here. So one thing that's a little bit annoying, notice there are 14 different values of quantization here. And of course, you can play 127 different MIDI notes. So the mapping isn't going to be perfect. If you want to actually get that full range of quantization, these are the different notes you have to use. I've figured this out beforehand. And then you can push the fold button up here, and each one of these notes, C sharp -2, F -2, D sharp -1, and so on, you can go ahead and pause and copy these or whatever if you wanted to do this. But each one of these will trigger a different quantization. So I'll show you what that sounds like. If we play this MIDI clip next to, say, this track, and then start adding different notes here into the MIDI, each one will correspond to a different quantization. Throw in a bunch of notes. If I make all of these longer, shorten this one. So that's using those notes to affect the quantization, using this expression control Max for Live device. The other thing you can do that's super cool is to actually map the control that tau parameter automatically every single time you play a note. And you can actually do that using the envelope max MIDI effect. So let's disable expression control here for a second. And then what envelope does is lets you, every time a note is triggered, automatically apply an envelope to some other parameter. So here in envelope, if I click on map, and then click on audio, this track here, and then click on tau, what I can do now, it should, yeah, you can see here, tau is now linked to this envelope. So if I have a MIDI clip here, and I put some note in it, say, let's put 2 notes in here. Then what we can do is, well, actually you can see the tau parameter has already been mapped. So what I'm going to do is turn off sustain, crank the amount all the way up, make this envelope much longer, maybe 7 seconds or so. Turn the sustain down to 0. Make the decay a little bit curvier. And then we should see here in audio, we'll have to turn, switch from quantization mode back to exponential mode. But now you can see this, the tau parameter is following the envelope here from this MIDI track, which is pretty cool. If you want to, you can swap the min and max values down here. So instead of going from 0 to 100, go from 100 to 0. And you'll have a note that speeds up rather than slowing down in its intensity, in its speed rather. So anyway, I hope that gives you some cool ideas for things that you could potentially do with this Break Machines device. It's totally free and a lot of fun to play around with, so get out there and make some breaks. Thanks for watching, guys. Go ahead and get in touch with me, by the way, if you have a Max for Live device that you'd like to see spotlighted. And I look forward to making more of these videos for you guys in the future. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.